I want to follow up a bit on the high strangeness theme that I brought up yesterday. Yesterday being September 11th. And, you know, the more I think about it, this aesthetic, if we can call it that. I mean, can reality have an aesthetic? I mean, I think a projected reality can have an aesthetic. A false reality can have an aesthetic. Reality has an aesthetic too. It's God's aesthetic. But a manufactured reality can definitely have an aesthetic, and that aesthetic is one of high strangeness. And I went into some detail about high strangeness yesterday, and I asked for some latitude here because this is one of those segments where I don't really know exactly what I don't really have a premeditated thing to say. I just know this is something important to talk about, but I don't really know where I'm going to go with what I'm going to say about this particular subject. I just think it's important to reflect a bit more on it. It used to be that high strangeness was something that we would get more or less on the side, but increasingly through the years, since 9/11, I think, as I said, 9/11 was what kicked us in this particular direction. But it's picked up especially since 2015, 2016, and it's picked up more and more and more momentum, like a snowball rolling down a cliff, a snowball of poison, poison snow rolling down a cliff, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, since in the last 2 or 3 years. We used to see high strangeness as something that would be, we would occasionally hear about it and see it. But with September 11th, I think that was when high strangeness was first put front and center, and we were expected we were worked on. We were, I guess you could say, brainwashed. That almost sounds like a sort of juvenile way of putting it, or an overly dramatic way of putting it. But I mean, and there's some more precise language that I think could be used for it. But I think brainwashing is factual. But I think we've been targeted, we've been manipulated. They talk about targeted individuals. I think we were all targeted individuals on September 11th. And that was a ritual that was played out before our eyes, that they knew everybody would be watching. And they knew we would just be seeing it over and over and over again. And all of the things that simply don't make sense, that don't cohere, that don't hold together about this event, which I discuss, again, I'm not going to repeat them here, but you can go to my my Substack page, and I wrote, actually it was last year that I wrote these 5 articles about 9/11 called 19 Arabs with Box Cutters, and in one of those articles I enumerate the various things that just don't make sense, that can't make sense, that don't hold up, don't make sense in our physical world with the rules that apply to our physical world as we know them. But I mean, it all was crystallized in something like the passport thing. We're going to believe that a passport from one of the terrorists fell out of the plane that supposedly crashed into the tower, and some Fed just happened to be right there on the spot, on the scene, picked up that passport and said, "Aha! I think we've solved our case." And that was put out there, and we were expected to believe it. And I don't remember anybody questioning it at the time. I don't remember anybody questioning the idea that passports were found at the crash site in Shanksville. That supposedly showed these same terrorists, like this crash that supposedly vaporized everything on the plane, but the passports were still generally untouched. They were maybe a little singed, but that was it. That's really it in a nutshell. And I compare it in my Substack articles. They're now on Substack. They were on a blogspot page, and they still are. But I just don't trust Blogger, not to censor. But Substack is a safe space for non-censorship, at least for now. I discuss how those things, and also some much more subtle things, which are just impossibilities of the event itself. And it's difficult to tell right now. I really would like to know how many people still buy into the official story. I heard one time that it was like a third of the population, or a fourth of the population, believed in conspiracy theories, and that was several years ago. And I remember when that was voiced, conspiracy theories, quote unquote, regarding 9/11. I remember when that was put out there, it was like an alarmist sort of thing, like, oh my gosh, we've got all these people believing these loony, crazy things. But you know what? I just bet they wouldn't put that out there anymore. They wouldn't have this alarmist person. They wouldn't put forth this alarmist idea of, we've got to believe the official story of 9/11. Well, number one, it's receded further into the past, so I guess we don't have to talk about it as much anymore. We don't have to talk about the particulars of it as much anymore. But also, I think there is an awareness of there being an awakening among greater numbers of people who just don't believe the lies that we are being told. Again, as I said, on the daily. It used to be a much more intermittent thing. But during the lockdown time, and still into now, it's become something that is almost, if you're paying attention to the media, which I don't recommend, if you're following the news, which I don't recommend, I pick up the news through osmosis mostly, and then sometimes I look into certain things. I'm very picky about what the things are that I look into. I don't just open up some news site and just look around and say, hey, what's going on in the world? Usually. Just because I don't think that's a healthy thing to do, especially not these days. Especially not since we know that the media lies to us. So, high strangeness is meant to, I think, ultimately fry our brains and get us to enter this or to endure this state of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when we're told to believe two contradictory things simultaneously. It goes against everything we understand to be reasonable in our perspective on the world as reasoning beings. Aristotle articulated it as the principle of non-contradiction. But I don't think you have to be a philosopher. I don't think you have to know about Aristotle to just understand that two contradictory things can't be true at the same time. That's just something that that's something that follows as the night follows the day. But the idea of high strangeness is that our brains are constantly being fried. We're constantly, in this state of being hooked up to a chair like Alex in Clockwork Orange with our eyes pried open, forced to watch things that sicken us, that debase us, that ruin us, that make us a much inferior copy of what we once were. So that's the game. That's what it ultimately comes down to, I think. And that's what high strangeness is all about. It's, this feeling of uncanniness, of apprehending uncanniness. This feeling of apprehending things that just are off, that don't feel right. I think we've all felt like the painting on the wall is crooked. For the last few years, the painting on the wall being reality, it's crooked, and it's gotten more crooked. And yet they're denying that it's crooked. They're denying. They're saying no, it's not crooked. It's go to Snopes.com. Snopes.com will set you straight. The fact checkers will set you straight. They'll tell you that picture is perfectly set on the wall. It's not tilted to the side in any way. And the design on the picture is exactly the same as it's always been. It hasn't changed, in spite of the Mandela effect thing. Like the thinker going from being like this to being like this, which he is now. Just things that should not be. Are happening, and we're being told, no, you were just wrong all along. Your initial idea of things was wrong. You're a victim of false memory. This is what they do. This is what some call gaslighting, and I don't like to use that word gaslighting because I try to choose terms that are less emotionally freighted. And gaslighting is like a more emotionally freighted kind of word, but it is true. There is an insidious process by which we are being by which they are attempting to bamboozle us, to make us think things are real when that cannot possibly be real, and to make us think that what we thought was real is just our silly imagination, and they know so much better than us, and we really should trust in them. This is the dark, insidious side of high strangeness, the high strangeness aesthetic that they are promoting. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for listening, and check me out on Substack if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on the aspects of 9/11 that just don't cohere, that don't hold up. It's September 12th now, so we're supposed to move on again. It's like, even though it changed everything, 9/11 changed everything. That was part of the that whole slogan, 9/11 changed everything, was part of the whole ghastly, attempt to play grab ass with our minds. But it did change everything. But the thing is, it changed it in the way that they wanted to change it, So, so it's not just like it just passively changed. It changed because they wanted it to change in the way they wanted things to be changed. All right. So, again, if I'm just babbling into insanity and losing my mind, as some allege, and as enduring a mental breakdown, as some have taunted, then I guess that's the way it is. But I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think it's just a case of someone trying to face up to things that are that don't make sense, but that have a lot of weight behind them, and a lot of money, and a lot of power, and a lot of clout behind them, pushing this. Principalities, thrones, and dominions, right? Anyway, I'll stop there. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.